If you are still holding out hope for a happy, heartwarming reunion next week where Drew gracefully thanks Alexis for taking care of Scout, I am here to tell you to prepare for a brutal heartbreak. The writers are absolutely not giving us a warm, fuzzy family hug. Instead, they are setting up a catastrophic collision course that will shatter this family into a million irreparable pieces. For those expecting smiles and tears of joy, you need to brace yourselves for a chilling reality check that will crush any optimism you have left for these characters. If you ask me, we are about to witness one of the most explosive confrontations in the history of this show, and it all starts with a knock on a door. Let us set the stage for this theoretical masterpiece. Instead of an emotional, tear-filled reunion at the hospital or a sweet family gathering, I predict that Drew is going to unexpectedly show up right on the front doorstep of Alexis. Imagine the sheer, unadulterated shock on the face of Alexis when she opens her door. She is expecting a delivery or perhaps a neighbor, but instead she finds Drew standing there. He is not in a wheelchair. He is not struggling to speak. He is standing tall, fully recovered, and radiating an intimidating cold energy. The visual alone will leave Alexis completely speechless, her mind racing to process the miraculous recovery standing right in front of her eyes. But ladies, this is where the first domino in our massive theory falls. Drew has not come to offer his heartfelt gratitude. He has not come to thank Alexis for being a pillar of strength, for taking Scout in, or for nurturing his daughter while he was trapped in his own body. No, he is there with a completely different, chilling purpose. I believe Drew is going to look Alexis dead in the eye and demand that he is taking Scout home with him immediately. He is not asking for permission, he is issuing a direct, non-negotiable order. For Alexis, who has poured her heart and soul into protecting that little girl during the darkest days of this crisis, this demand will feel like a physical blow to the chest. And then the second domino topples, and it brings a devastating twist. I theorize that Drew will coldly declare that, effective immediately, he is permanently banning Alexis from having any contact with Scout. He will not allow visits, he will not allow phone calls, and he certainly will not allow Alexis to act as a maternal figure anymore. If you have been watching this show as long as I have, you know that you do not simply tell a fierce matriarch like Alexis that she cannot see her own granddaughter. Drew will likely justify this cruel ban by claiming that the environment Alexis provides is no longer safe for a child. He will assert that he is the only one fit to decide the future of Scout. Can you imagine the sheer outrage bubbling up inside Alexis? She will be utterly stunned, and then her defensive instincts will kick in. She will argue that his declaration is completely unreasonable. She has been the one providing a stable, loving home. She has been the one wiping away the tears of Scout, holding her tight, and keeping her safe from the chaos of the outside world. Alexis will passionately defend herself, arguing that she has never done a single thing to harm Scout. But guys, Drew is not there to listen to reason. His eyes will remain cold and unyielding. He is a changed man, hardened by his trauma, and he is out for blood. This brings us to the third, most catastrophic domino in our theory. Just when Alexis thinks the situation cannot possibly get any worse, Drew is going to drop a nuclear bomb. I have a very bold theory that Drew will suddenly accuse Alexis of being a criminal. Yes, you heard that right. He will not just criticize her parenting or her lifestyle. He will accuse her of breaking the law. He might boldly declare that she is going to pay for her crimes and that he will personally ensure she ends up behind bars. Imagine the absolute terror washing over Alexis. She is a brilliant legal mind, a woman who knows the law inside and out, and suddenly she is being threatened with prison by the father of her granddaughter. Why would he say this? What could he possibly know? Here is where the domino effect reaches its terrifying climax. According to my theory, Drew has somehow discovered the darkest secret currently hiding in the shadows of this town. He has figured out that Alexis knew the absolute truth about the night Willow shot him. Even worse, he knows that Alexis actively chose to remain silent, covering up the crime instead of going to the authorities. If Drew truly has the hard evidence or a credible witness to back up this explosive claim, Alexis is going to face severe, life-altering legal consequences. We are talking about aiding and abetting obstruction of justice, and concealing a violent felony. Let us take a moment to analyze the psychology behind this unholy alliance between Alexis and Willow. Why would Alexis, a woman who respects the law, risk her entire freedom to protect the woman who nearly killed Drew? If you ask me, it all comes down to the twisted dynamics of a legacy family. Alexis likely believed she was doing the right thing for the greater good of the family unit. Perhaps she thought that sending Willow to prison would cause irreparable psychological damage to the children involved. She might have orchestrated a massive, manipulative scheme to keep the truth buried, convincing herself that it was the only way to maintain peace. But in the eyes of Drew, this is the ultimate, unforgivable betrayal. He was the victim. He was the one fighting for his life, and his own family member protected his attacker. When Drew threatens to send her to prison, Alexis will be paralyzed with fear. The fourth domino falls as the realization sets in. This is no longer just a bitter family dispute over custody. This is the beginning of a vicious cycle of legal warfare that could destroy everything she has left. If Drew goes to the police with this information, Alexis will be stripped of her dignity, her career, and her freedom. She will have to scramble to build a defense. She will have to try and prove that her decisions, however flawed and illegal they may seem, were born out of a desperate desire to protect her family from further trauma. She will try to paint herself as a protector, while Drew will paint her as a corrupt, manipulative enabler. And think about the ripple effects this will have on Willow. If Alexis goes down, Willow goes down with her. The entire town will be dragged into this messy, toxic scandal. Drew is essentially holding a loaded gun to the head of this legacy family, ready to pull the trigger and expose all of their dirty secrets to the glaring light of day. He is determined to settle all the debts of his past, and he does not care who gets destroyed in the process. He wants justice, and his version of justice looks an awful lot like pure, unadulterated vengeance. But guys, let us pause and flip the board for a second, because in the world of soap operas, nothing is ever as straightforward as it seems. And what if Drew does not actually have the concrete proof he claims to have? What if his entire confrontation at the door is just a calculated bluff, a psychological game designed to make Alexis panic and confess? Drew might be operating on a hidden agenda, using a tiny piece of circumstantial evidence to force Alexis into making a fatal mistake. If he can get her to admit her guilt on tape, or in front of a hidden witness, he wins. On the flip side, we cannot underestimate Alexis. She is a survivor. She has faced down mobsters, corrupt politicians, and psychopathic villains. Are we really supposed to believe she will just roll over and let Drew dictate her fate? What if Alexis has already anticipated this exact scenario? What if she has a counter-scheme already in motion? She might have hidden evidence of her own, perhaps something that proves Drew is not mentally stable enough to take custody of Scout. She could argue that his trauma has made him paranoid and vindictive, turning his accusations against him in a court of law. This could quickly escalate into a brutal courtroom battle where both sides drag each other through the mud, exposing every single flaw and past mistake. Furthermore, we have to wonder who might have fed this explosive information to Drew. Did he figure it out on his own during his miraculous recovery, or did someone else, someone with their own manipulative scheme, plant this seed in his mind? Could there be a third party pulling the strings, hoping to watch this legacy family tear itself apart from the inside out? The possibilities are absolutely endless, and that is what makes this theory so incredibly thrilling. We also have to consider the emotional toll this will take on young Scout. She is the innocent victim in this vicious cycle of adult warfare. If Drew rips her away from the only stable home she has known recently, and then proceeds to send her grandmother to prison, the psychological damage to that little girl will be catastrophic. Alexis knows this, and she will fight with every last breath in her body to prevent it. She will not just be fighting for her own freedom, she will be fighting for the soul of her granddaughter. Ladies, if this domino theory comes to pass, we are looking at months of high-stakes drama, courtroom showdowns, and emotional breakdowns. The tension between Drew and Alexis will reach a boiling point that could redefine their relationship forever. Will Drew actually go through with his threat and call the police on his own family? Will Alexis find a legal loophole to escape the charges, or will she be forced to strike a dangerous deal to save herself and Willow? Right now, this is all just a theory based on the incredible, intense build-up we have been witnessing. The writers are laying the groundwork for something massive, and the clues are all there if you know where to look. The recovery, the secrets, the quiet desperation, it is all leading to a spectacular explosion. The only question that remains is this. When the dust finally settles on this catastrophic family war, will Alexis end up sitting behind cold steel bars? Or will she somehow manage to outsmart a vengeful Drew at his own dangerous game?